An archaeologist in Denmark discovered a treasure trove of gold coins and artifacts that had to be buried back. What was the reason for such an act? You will find out in this video if you watch it to the end. And you will also see the genetic disk, one of the oldest civilizations, learn about the lost labyrinth and why the great Chinese civilization could disappear. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. Genetic disk. In Colombia, a disc made of durable material was discovered, the surface of which shocked all researchers. All the stages of the birth of a person into the world were marked on it. It is inexplicable, but true. The images of the processes are drawn with pinpoint accuracy. They can only be seen under a microscope. The genetic disc is at least 1,000 years old, and it is not clear how such a relief was applied without appropriate instruments. The strange-looking human heads are different from the usual images, and researchers are wondering what species these people belong to. Archaeological artifacts that do not fit into history raise many questions. It is already clear that our ancestors, the authors of this disc, possessed perfect knowledge, which is evidenced by the application of microscopic drawings. New Testaments stained with urine. Another religious artifact from Italy is an incomplete Bible called the Purple Rosen Codex. The manuscript contains only the Gospels of Matthew and Mark. The 1,500-year-old book is among the oldest New Testament manuscripts and has long puzzled scholars with its purple pages. That was difficult to make in those days. Initially, it was assumed that the parchment was treated with a substance secreted by sea slugs of the genus Murex. In 2016, when conducting X-ray fluorescence, scientists could not detect bromine on the pages, and it should be contained in substances obtained from slugs. As a result, it turned out that the manuscript was processed with orcine, a natural dye that is extracted from lichens, as well as fermented urine. The process required the presence of ammonia, and at that time, there was no other source of ammonia other than urine. Tarim mummies. Scientists managed to completely decipher the DNA of the Tarim mummies, about 3.8 thousand years old, found at the beginning of the 20th century in northwestern China. As a result of the work of the researchers, it turned out that genetically, the mummies do not belong to the Indo-Europeans, but to a unique isolated group of descendants of ancient Eurasian hunter-gatherers. According to Seoul University professor Chang Changwon, archaeogeneticists have long been searching for traces of the last population of ancient northern Eurasians to better understand the genetic history of the continent. As a result, one of these groups of ancient people was found in the most unexpected place. These mummies were discovered at the beginning of the last century in the Tarim Basin by the expedition of the British traveler Mark Stein and the Swedish geographer Sven Jadem. The mummified bodies belonged to ancient farmers who lived in the northwestern region of modern China about 3,000–4,000 thousand years ago. New technologies have allowed researchers to decipher the DNA of 18 Tarim mummies, as well as 5 supposedly contemporary people who lived in the neighboring Jingarian plain. Scientists have established that the mummies belong to a unique population, not associated either with the Indo-European people or with various groups of farmers in East Asia and Mongolia who lived in the neighborhood. Genetic analysis pointing to the relationship of the mummified remains with ancient hunter-gatherers who lived much further north, off the coast of Lake Baikal and in the north of the Eurasian steppes. Subsequently, they were assimilated or destroyed by other people, and their traces were preserved only among a part of the population of southern Siberia and the Indians of North America. In the course of further research, scientists intend to find out the reasons why the contents of the inhabitants of the Tarim Basin with the population of regions of Eurasia did not leave any traces in their genome. Giant camels lived alongside humans. An international team of scientists came to the conclusion that our distant ancestors probably caught extinct giant Bactrian camels living next door to them in Mongolia about 26,500 thousand years ago. Camelus snowblochi is an extinct Bactrian camel that lived in the Pleistocene and at the same time one of the largest species of these animals. It reached 3 meters in height and weighed about a ton. In better times, its range extended from Eastern Europe to Transbaikalia. Camels are known to have contributed to the expansion of human populations into arid regions, and one of these helpers of man was probably the giant Noblochi, not in terms of domestication, but as a source of food. One of the reasons for its disappearance is called competition with Camelus ferus, a species of wild camels that still lives on the territory of Mongolia, although today it is under the threat of extinction. Another reason for the death of the giant Bactrian camels is climate change, but perhaps the hunting of ancient people also played a role in this. Evidence of the coexistence of camels and humans is recorded in ancient petroglyphs, including those in Mongolia itself. An article by an international team of scientists shows that Noblochi lived next door to anatomically modern humans. This is evidenced by traces on the bones of a camel. The researchers, however, are not sure that people caught the animal in the process of hunting. Perhaps they were butchering carrion. Neural network Ithaca is able to read ancient texts. The neural network and machine learning find application in everything. It became known that a subsidiary of Alphabet DeepMind has developed an artificial intelligence capable of understanding and restoring text on ancient artifacts. It is also reported that the neural network, called Ithaca, is even able to determine the period when this text was written. As the developers of the neural network explained, the intelligence is trained on almost 80,000 examples of ancient Greek artifacts. In addition, each inscription is endowed with metadata when a particular entry was made. On the basis of the introductions, Ithaca is already forming its own idea of the missing signs and date. However, as the authors of the development explained, the neural network does not guarantee 100% accuracy of reproduction of the original text. For this reason, Ithaca is not a standalone software for determining the history of a find. The neural network, roughly speaking, is advisory in nature. Ithaca will tell you what could be in place of the missing signs, but the correctness and consistency of the result will still be checked by a person. In the future, developers plan to increase the localization of the neural network, as well as improve recognition accuracy by introducing more text samples. Dvaraka. Hindus consider Dvaraka to be a holy city. They are sure that there was the beloved home of the god Krishna, who lived on earth 5,000 years ago. Dvaraka was built by an architect at the behest of Krishna. The material for the buildings was crystal, emeralds, and silver. More than 100 palaces were erected for each of the 16,108 queens. Dvaraka was destroyed during the battle between Krishna and King Salva. Salva bombed the city with a beam of energy. Of course, all these elements bear little resemblance to the truth, but scientists still wanted to find a mythical city. The researchers descending under the water discovered the ancient ruins at the place of its alleged location. Before them lay a large ancient city, the layout of which fit the description, only without the crystal palaces. Presumably the real Dvaraka was built 9,000 years ago. It can be considered the most ancient city on Earth. It disappeared underwater in the 2nd millennium BC. 12,000-year-old mammoth tooth. A group of New Hampshire fishermen recovered a woolly mammoth tooth while fishing for scallops off the coast of Massachusetts. This is reported by the news agency UPI. The crew of a fishing boat in New Hampshire were catching scallops when they pulled out something unexpected: a 12,000-year-old, 11-inch long, woolly mammoth tooth. Tim Ryder, captain and co-owner of the New England Fishmongers, took the 7-pound item to the University of New Hampshire, where experts scrutinized it. Ryder decided to put the tooth up for auction on eBay and donate the proceeds to charity. Found a way to restore ancient smells. Modern people already know quite a lot about the life of their ancestors in different periods. However, until now, even the clearest images of the life of ancient people remained without a very important detail: smells. We still do not know what aromas and stench surrounded the person in the past, but German scientists have proposed ways to fix this. Smell has always been an integral part of human life, but the smells of the past are still a mystery to modern people. The thing is that most of the aromas consist of organic substances that quickly decompose, so archaeologists cannot determine how certain objects smelled thousands of years ago. But now, researchers from the Max Planck Institute for the History of Humankind, Germany, have proposed ways in which it will be possible to restore the smells of the distant past. If scientists can restore smells from the past, then we will discover more information about the lives of our ancestors, how the rituals were carried out, for example, with what incense, did they have perfumes, how did the kitchen smell, did the ancient people follow the rules of hygiene? Researchers believe that they can restore the smells that prevailed in certain situations in the past with the help of some scientific methods. In particular, they can be helped by metabolomics, a science that studies the totality of small molecules in an organism, organ, tissue, or cell, which can tell about life processes in certain organisms. Also, specialists can use the methods of proteomics, the field of molecular biology dedicated to the identification and quantitative analysis of proteins. Together with the study of ancient texts, images, and broader archaeological environmental records, researchers will be able to discover previously unknown aspects of the life of ancient people, including what smells surrounded them. Gold under the floor. A treasure trove of gold and silver coins from the end of the 15th century was discovered in the center of French Dijon. Archaeologists from the National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research, INRAP, were exploring a site near the Abbey of Saint Banning when they discovered 34 old coins hidden in the ruins of one of the stone buildings. The house was built at the end of the 15th or the beginning of the 16th century, and the coins were hidden under the floor of the old house. Of the 34 coins found, 10 were gold and 24 were silver. They were placed in a small bronze box, only partially preserved due to the damage received during urban development in the 20th century. Also found in the box was a gold pendant covered with green and white enamel. The coins were stuck together with each other from time to time. INRAP specialists were able to separate and purify them in the laboratory. After that, it was found that all the coins date back to the second half of the 15th century. The oldest of the coins is a Brabant made of gold and issued between 1432 and 1467. The newest is also a gold coin of Pope Innocent VIII, issued in 1484-1492. According to their condition, it can be assumed that the coins were not in circulation for long. The hoard contains only one French coin issued by King Louis XI, and most of the coins are Italian coins, among which it is worth highlighting the silver testants issued in the Duchy of Milan during the reign of Galeazzo Maria Sforza. This find is of great numismatic interest since only a few copies of such coins are known to exist. Weighty coins of high quality undoubtedly demonstrate the strength of power and the desire to create a reference currency at that time. This treasure is also valuable evidence of the frequent visitation of this region at the end of the 15th century and reflects the social sphere of the market and the European trading world of that time. The states where these coins were minted include regions that played an important role in European trade at that time. The mystery of the disappearance of ancient Chinese civilization. More than 5,000 years ago, on the banks of the Yangtze River in the east of modern China, an ancient civilization was formed, which later became developed and majestic. However, after a while, the people disappeared due to the climate apocalypse. Historians have discovered signs of the Liangzhu culture in the eastern territories of the state, which indicate the existence of a unique civilization. In particular, these people developed agriculture and aquaculture. Also, the Liangzhu people thought through the architecture of their own settlements to the smallest detail. Already in those days, they knew how to create reservoirs, dams, and many other water systems. However, after about 1,000 years, civilization suddenly collapsed. Archaeologists have not yet fully figured out the reason for the disappearance of the ancient people. According to the expert, the monsoon rains that flooded the territory of the people and destroyed the dams could also be involved in the disappearance of Liangzhu. However, another group of researchers believe that the reason for the extinction of civilization is the desert. Lost Labyrinth. If you build all the Greek buildings, then it will require much less effort and expense than this labyrinth. Even the pyramids of the pharaohs are much grander than ancient Greek works. and the lost labyrinth surpasses even the pyramids. So thought the ancient Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC. He described a colossal temple consisting of 3,000 rooms filled with paintings, engravings, and inscriptions. The ancient Greeks called it the Labyrinth in honor of the intricate labyrinth built by Daedalus for the Cretan king Minos, where the mythical Minotaur lived. Today, nothing remains of the temple buildings described by Herodotus. Perhaps they were preserved somewhere under a layer of earth. Historians often question the words of Herodotus, but there are other ancient descriptions of this temple. Therefore, indeed, such a monumental structure could exist in the past. To search for the mysterious labyrinth, the Makkad expedition was organized. Archaeologists have used to unravel the mysteries of history. There is hope that someday this labyrinth will be found. The finds had to be buried back. A Danish amateur archaeologist named Søren Bagge discovered a rather interesting find. Luck overtook the searcher very close to his house, near the small village of Lille Carleby. Earlier, the man had already found silver Arab coins in this place, and this time Søren came across an unusual signal. Digging, the treasure hunter pulled out a silver bowl from the ground and noticed something else under the bowl. Continuing to dig, the man saw ancient jewelry in the depth. Like all law-abiding Danes, Søren Bagge decided to report his find to the archaeologists of the Roskilde Museum. But here's the bad luck. It was on a day off, there were no employees in the museum. And the man, without hesitation, decided to bury the found items before the start of the working week. Søren Bagge then reported the find to archaeologists from the Roskilde Museum. When the experts finally arrived at the site, they determined that the ground contained a treasure from the 10th century and the items in the treasure date back to the Viking Age. Scientists came to the conclusion that in order to preserve the finds from possible damage, it would be advisable to cut out a layer of earth with the discovered objects and send everything to the laboratory for study. The find turned out to be quite impressive and consisted of 392 items, including 2 silver bowls, 53 silver and bronze pendants, more than 300 amber, silver, rock crystal, and glass beads, a bracelet, a silver chain, as well as 18 European and Arab coins. Scientists have established that the treasure was buried in the second half of the 10th century, and the jewelry found was made in Eastern Europe, Ireland, Scandinavia, and Scotland. The found treasure is presented in the National Museum in Roskilde. We strongly recommend that you subscribe to our channel so as not to miss a new video. Leave your kind comments under the video that help us develop. Thanks for your views. Bye everyone!